Do you know most marketing materials are created by people in their 30s? Most expenditures are people in their 50s and above. Chatbots, virtual assistants, it's not to be deployed so you don't have to talk to your customers. Anybody who's in business, so much of the conversation has to be, how do we do what we do? How do we serve our customers and clients? Do it in a way that's preferable for them, but profitable for us.
What is the problem that we are needing to solve here?
We worked so hard to get a new customer. We got them to our website, and now we piss them off. The bigger danger today is not only do they leave you and they tell thousands and thousands of other people why they left you.
Welcome to the Experience Edge, the podcast where we dive deep with industry leaders, pioneers, and CX experts to explore what it really takes to create meaningful customer-centric business impact. My guest today is David Avrin. He's one of the most in-demand customer experience speakers, consultants in the world today. He's a global speaking fellow, has shared his content-rich, entertaining, actionable presentations with audiences all across the world. He helps organizations basically to understand and connect with their changing customers and clients to help future-proof their business. But what I find most interesting is that he's written 7 books. My favorite is Why Customers Leave and How to Win Them Back. But today we'll also touch base on how ridiculously easy it is to do business with ... And a fun fact is that I have been a guest in David's show a long time ago. But hey, David, it's my pleasure to have you on today.
It's nice to be back in touch. It's been a couple of years since we've talked. And of course, you've been doing amazing things in the marketplace, so it's been fun watching your journey as well. And I appreciate the opportunity to put our heads together and share some wisdom.
Appreciate it. So let's dig in. And I want to start with something you said, which I found on the interweb somewhere. And you said, quote unquote, product-centricity is losing its luster. And that was in the context of a talk you gave about the shift from product-centric to customer-centric. So I thought, let's go broad and define basically what do you mean with that,
Sure.
And why is that important?
You know, we have historically been product-centric for a couple of thousand years. And I know a lot of people in your audience are very well versed on customer experience and marketing. But the reality was, it was how good are we at what we do, right? The products that we sell, the services that we offer. We work to be very, very good, very skilled, very accountable. And then we sell it to as many people as we can. Right? And that creates market share. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how business has been done for thousands of years. I am an unapologetic, compassionate capitalist. I mean, that's how we do business. The problem with product centricity is, I would say arguably for the first time ever, everybody's good. Because if you weren't good, you'd be outed. You'd be outed on TripAdvisor and Yelp and Rotten Tomatoes and Glassdoor. And so we've had this great equalizing of quality, because the lesser players get weeded out very quickly. And of course, the pandemic weeded out a lot more. And so the challenge is when everybody's good, we tend to use the same claims about about what makes us different and preferable, right? We talk about quality and commitment and caring and trust, and it's about the people. Well, the reality is your competitors have great people and your competitors are also very good. So there's this numbing of the population. We don't know who's good because everybody says the same things. The really fascinating shift, and I know that you've been studying this as well over the past several years, is this big shift from product centricity to customer centricity. And to clarify, customer centric doesn't mean customer focused. We're all customer focused, right? We hear people say, for us, it's all about the customer. Who else is it going to be about? You're in business. Customer centricity says we're very good at what we do. We're not taking our eye off the ball, but we are committed to being better than our competitors at understanding the changing wants, needs, and expectations of our customers. We're all going to be good. We're going to stay good, but we're going to understand them better so we can serve them better. We can understand their preferences better. We can be a student of the shifts in behavior and expectations and technology, and we are going to align our delivery to do that better than others. And when you do that on a consistent basis, you literally future-proof your engagement, because you're always shifting, you're always modifying, because the landscape is littered with companies who were very good at what they did, and they just kept doing what they were good at, and they didn't realize that their customers were changing and how they wanted to buy. Did they buy online on Amazon or Alibaba? Almost anything you can afford, you can get delivered to your house. Where I live just south of Denver, Colorado in America, and we have like 3 Amazon warehouses close by. 80% of what we order, and apparently we order pretty much every day, 80% of what we order, we get delivered same day. It's ridiculous and it's awesome. It's a great time to be a customer. It's a great time to be a customer. It's a really tough time to be in business.
Right. And when you say product, so this is a very consumer focused approach, and it is a
Sure.
great time to be a consumer, right?
Great
Um,
time.
I had John Cutler on the show. He's a product evangelist and a great
Hmm.
product thinker, like in the digital product world, like building products. And we had a similar conversation where it was also like the shift towards customer centricity, because everyone working in product, whether you are Amazon and you focus on the customer experience by delivering faster and lowering your cost, or if you're a product manager in a B2B environment, no doubt that everyone says we're customer centric. And yet we have to make this shift. So what is wrong with being customer centric within a business silo versus like being customer centric across the board? Or maybe not the right question is not what's wrong, but more like what is the problem that we are needing to solve here?
Well, yeah, the problem we're needing to solve is the balance between predictability and profitability, and having systems that are tried and true and that work and that we can predict and that we can budget for and that we can hire for, balancing that, which is the business centric decisions we have to make in any business, with what our customers want us to do. And they aren't always well aligned. And so, I mean, if you ask the customers what they want to be able to reach us 24/7 with answers, and right, it doesn't make sense, right? So how do we strike that balance? And I think we're in a time, and this is kind of exciting and interesting, and you're developing new technologies around this, is that we're in a bit of an experimentation right now. We're learning what works. We're learning what people are willing to put up with, and what they're not. I think people are generally reasonable, but we're all competing against Amazon, right? Like I don't expect I can get my hair cut at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? I'm reasonable, but I do expect that I can make an appointment to do so. I do expect that I can cancel an appointment. I don't expect that I'm going to get my packages delivered at 1 a.m., but I expect that I can look and see where it is in transit, that I have visibility into the process. This is a whole new dynamic. You know, when we were kids, we couldn't do any of that. We didn't know where things, right? We joke because we've got kids and they're all grown and gone now. When I was a kid, we would leave for the day and we come home at dinner time and our parents say, "So what'd you do all day?" Today we're tracking our kids. We know exactly where they are because they've got their phone. Our expectations are changing in a big way. So I think when we look at the challenges of this, what seems fairly simple, be more customer centric, is we can't do everything our customers want, but we have to do more than we are. And we have to recognize what we're learning from other industries. What are we learning from healthcare and restaurant and retail and manufacturing for access, for visibility into the process? Uh, uh, the things that make sense. People are so enamored, and I know we'll probably talk more about AI, but the companies are so excited about, we can do chatbots, we can do digital assistants, and we can save all this money. We don't have to hire people. Your customers hate it. They hate it. I'm going to say it out loud. Nobody says it out loud. Your customers hate it. We're shouting into the phone, "Real person, real agent, agent." I think you said no, no, right? You know, call centers are being inundated with people who are angry because it took them 15 minutes to get to a real person. And by the time they talk to a real person, they're already at a 12 in frustration. It's still an experiment. We're still figuring out what's the best way to do it. How do we balance something that makes financial sense and what our customers want? And we're still figuring that out. And I'm not trying to just suck up to you, but the technology for what you're doing, that gives companies the information they need to make better decisions as they're creating and revising those journey maps. It's not just how does it work well? How does it work better? Where are frustration points? And so the more information companies can get, the better decisions they can make.
So I want to get back to something you said earlier. I put a marker in for AI so we can uncover that a little bit further. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But earlier you mentioned like, I am a capitalist in CX, which I think is fascinating because many people in CX, they think they have to focus on the customer. And obviously, ultimately, they work in a business, whether it's a commercial business or even if it's a government agency. they still work for the business. And
Of course.
they struggle with that, I see, where you're very outspoken and say, look, I'm a capitalist in CX, so maybe like we need to talk
No,
about what
the
that
way
means
I
for
say, let
you.
me
But
tell you, I say I'm a compassionate capitalist, 100%, unapologetic. And you want me to explain that? And because I don't think there's a conflict. When I hear people talk about this company, they want to make money. Money pays for college. Money puts food on your table. Money helps people buy a house. And if you're not profitable, then you're out of business. And so I think as long as we are, when I talk about being a compassionate capitalist, as long as we are good stewards of our resources and we treat our people well, the ultimate goal has to be profitability. It has to be. There's no other way to do business. I've asked audiences that. I said, why are you in business? And there's one answer. You're in business to make a profit. And if you don't make a profit, then you're not in business. Now what you do with that profit and how you treat your people and how you serve your communities is all very, very important. But at the foundation of everything, that for me is capitalism, is that we work hard, we get rewarded, we get to buy the things that we need, we can buy the food that we want. In America, of course, where our universities are very expensive, and I'm paying for 5 of them right now. Anybody who's in business, so much of the conversation has to be, how do we do what we do? How do we serve our customers and clients? How do we do it in a way that's preferable for them, but profitable for us? And both of those things have to be present, and they're not mutually exclusive.
if you're enjoying this conversation, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave a review. It makes all the difference. The Experience Edge podcast is where I interview business leaders, CX pioneers, and the best designers who share their insight on creating business impact, having an edge on the customer experience. If you want more exclusive content and behind-the-scenes access, check out the Experience Edge podcast on YouTube and LinkedIn so you don't miss a thing. Now let's get back to the conversation. Why do you think some of the best customer experience teams struggle to get their initiatives aligned with positive business outcomes? I mean, sometimes I see a big disconnect between we do a lot of customer-centric work and thinking and research and understanding, and then we see a lot of things that need fixing and friction that we need to remove and bigger things that we need to develop for our customers. And yet they get shut down because they don't seem to have an immediate impact on business, or it doesn't seem to work for the team to get that prioritized. But I agree, like the only reason a company exists is to produce a customer, make the customer happy, and then keep the customer, right? And the customer likes to do business because they need to solve their problems, scratch their itch, or get by in life with whatever they need from that service or product. Why do these CX teams, the customer experience teams that are designed to bring the customer-centric perspective to the company, having issues aligning their initiatives to business impact?
That's what also determines whether they get approval for those initiatives, right? Because that's the real struggle. Is I think we have really outstanding CX professionals working in this industry, but getting the term we use in America for the financial people, sometimes we call them the bean counters, getting them to understand is difficult, because I think you brought up a really good point, which is how do you invest something now that may provide, down the road. And the analogy I use is say if you're in a city planning department and you've got potholes in the road, and you're on city council and you're elected for 2 years, and people want the potholes filled, and you can fill those up for $1 million and they'll fill all the potholes, but it'll only last for 5 years. Or you can spend $10 million and it'll last 20 years. Which one are they going to do? They're going to do the cheaper one that lasts less because they're being judged on their performance now, because they have to run for re-election in 2 years. So that's the problem that we get within an organizational structure, is that owners, shareholders, no matter what they want results. As we all have to. We're all working hard. We all have to give results. It's hard to say, spend this money, divert your attention for results that may come in 3 years or 5 years. They'd rather direct their attention on something that's going to work for the next quarter. And it's frustrating for CX professionals. It's frustrating for marketing professionals, right? And so the point you made, I think, is the right one, is we have to do a better job of quantifying to convince the C-suite that these are not fluffy initiatives. Because when we say customer experience, so many people unfortunately still see them. That means customer service. Are we being nice to our customers? And we know it's so much more than that, right? The customer service is that individual interaction, but CX is the entire lifespan, the entire customer journey. How do we smooth that out? How do we eliminate friction? And in any one of those spots that creates frustration for our customers, we could lose that customer. So it's really incumbent upon CX professionals to articulate and use the data to make their case, because I think these initiatives are very, very important, and some companies will embrace them and some will not.
How are you coaching or working with leadership of those companies? Because I know in a past life you've been hosting and bringing together groups of CEOs
Mm-hmm.
to problem solve and workshop, but today you're inspiring many of those leadership teams to take action, and I don't see any resistance from leadership teams in bigger companies to say, like, we should be putting an emphasis on the customer experience, and we're designing these teams to help us do that and to prioritize the right things. But in practice, it's way harder. So how do you
Yeah.
work with them to crack that open, to make sure that that company is actually taking the next step?
Yeah, and that's part of the challenge. You're right. They do embrace it on a macro level. They know it's important. It's not like this is a new concept. They know that things are changing. When it comes to altering their proven business practices, that's when it gets difficult. We don't want to be reactive. We don't want to try and struggle and then we're catching up to other people in our industry. We want to lead. We want to be able to say, what does the next 18 months look like? What do we need to be doing now? That's internal dynamic. I tend to be more on that top end of saying, here's part of my job as a keynote speaker, and I also consult as well, is to bring perspective from other industries. Here's what we're seeing from manufacturing and healthcare. Here's what we're seeing, because I've spoken in 28 countries around the world. I've got 7 countries over the next 4 weeks that I'm going to hit, and I'm learning everywhere. And so many of the conferences that I'm presenting are very specific to that industry, and I bring that outside perspective. And so it's about continued conversation, but you have to make a compelling case for change. So you're right. Everybody accepts it. We know we have to do it. And then they say, well, here's what you need to change. And they're like, let's, let's take a pause on that one. Right. Or let's, do a study. Or sometimes and then some embrace it all out, but it requires them shifting their focus from what they're doing. And in most cases, it means doing more. And that's hard. I was asked on a on-stage panel discussion, they said, why is it that companies just don't get it? I said, they absolutely get it. It's just hard, right? We all have our head down and we're working hard every day. It's not like businesses, even if they have not a particularly great customer experience in their company, it's not because they don't care about their customer. Is they're trying to balance profitable things that work. And too often they think, well, we can't just alter for everybody because that's not workable, right? So conversations like you and I are having are so important to help them navigate this experiment.
Let's unpack a few, if I may. I'm super
Sure.
curious. You've been all over the world. Let's balance a few. So
Yeah.
let's take the differences between European customer experience and US customer experience. I don't know if that's the right way, or you pick your two opposites, and then maybe like share an example of like the biggest difference that you've seen in the last year, where that was like almost like a polarity on how it's done on this side and that side of the world, where you think companies have a lot to learn. Like, can you give an example of what that might look like?
Yeah, the nice thing is we're pretty global, and I think we all understand what everybody's doing. But there is some minor, in some cases, and significant in other. I think the difference between the U.S. and Europe is fairly minor, but I'm happy to say here's what I've seen. The difference between the U.S. and, say, the Indian subcontinent or Asia Pacific is pretty significantly different. For countries that have significant remote populations, there's far less of an expectation for immediacy. They're not used to immediacy with their government agencies, right? They want to apply for some particular license to build in certain countries. It could take years. So there isn't an expectation, right? In America, we're standing in front of the microwave oven, snapping our finger, going, "Come on, I haven't got all minute," right? So the impatience is different that we'll see just because of what they've become accustomed to in their normal life. People are not necessarily particularly responsive. There's also cultures that are pretty casual. 5 o'clock may mean 5 o'clock, it might mean 5:15. So you see that kind of a thing. The only significant difference I see between Europe and America is there's much more governmental mandates that protect the people in Europe. We struggle. We're so, and I hate to use the word capitalist because I don't say it as a bad word, but we're so individualist, and companies do what they're going to do, and you can buy with them or not. Like, it's very, very difficult to cancel a subscription in America. It's very frustrating. It's borderline unethical how difficult they make it to cancel a subscription, right? But certain things in Europe that the European Union and others, that they mandate, here's how companies need to behave. And they put some constrictions, they put some guardrails around consumer rights. And so it's a more consumer-friendly place to do business in Europe because the government protects and creates some mandates. American, we have a different way of navigating that. It's just we have profound choices. I mean, we certainly have protections on environment and all of that as well, but we vote with our wallet and we vote with our feet. So that's sort of the difference that I see there. But by and large, we all want some measure of simplicity in the process. We all want some measure of visibility into where is the status.
So let's talk about friction. I mean, if I
Yeah.
may summarize, ridiculously easy to do business with. I mean, that's what it is all about, right? Removing friction in every little thing that you interact with customers. This is your seventh book. Is that
This
right?
is my most recent book. And I was going to say, if you said you liked the Why Customers Leave,
Right.
this I think is my best one.
What is it about removing friction that makes this one so interesting?
What I think for me was part of my journey. When I made the shift from marketing and branding to customer experience, it wasn't because I was chasing the next fad, is that I saw a significant shift, and my research led into that as well, into changing prioritization and rationale for why people make business decisions. It was less about what we say about ourselves and became very much more so about what other people say about us. And so my work has been around understanding why people are making their decisions, positive or negative. And so that's what led to my book, Why Customers Leave. And it was just a whole litany of frustration points. And here's how I think companies should do it better. What I want to do with this one was to be a little more solution oriented. How do companies do it better? Who does it better? And so finding examples, and it's easy to talk about Uber, Amazon, and I don't talk about Uber or Amazon in the book because we already know that. But what are some other ways of recognizing things that we just don't put up with anymore that we probably did 10 years ago? But like, why would we do that? Because you don't have to do that anymore, right? Because everything has changed, whether it's our mobile devices, right? It's much less important that we have a calendar. So when we think about like our cell phones, I mean, how many things does that replace, right? It's changed our world. As I work with organizations, whether I'm consulting or I'm speaking, the theme just kept coming up over and over again. Well, who makes that easy? And then I thought, well, let's go to a whole nother level. If you really want to be not just competitive, but dominant in your space, if you want to really future-proof, eliminate all of it, everything that you can. Don't just make it slightly easier, make it ridiculously easy, right? And I think a lot of it can go back to the whole idea of the buy with one click. That's ridiculously easy. And when you're in a world of parity, everybody's good. And it's hard because I talk to business leaders and I'd ask them, what do you think your competitive advantage is? And they'd always give me it's about our quality, our superior quality. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that you believe that. But I don't think your customers believe that. I think they believe you have great quality. And I think they believe that your competitors have great quality. And I'm not suggesting quality is unimportant. It's not a differentiator anymore. In very few cases, unless you're a huge market leader in innovative technology. Like, I'll give you an example. I was keynoting a conference, and before I went up to speak, the CEO was doing his presentation, and he was doing the big beginning of the year kickoff. And at the end of his speech, he says, and remember, at the end of the day, it's about quality. We will win on quality. And everybody's cheering. And I thought to myself, I could not disagree more. I disagree. At the end of the day, it's not about quality. At the beginning of the day, it's about quality. Quality is the entry fee. You better be good or the marketplace will figure it out. Quality, incredibly important. But at the end of the day, it's about competitive advantage. It's not about what do you do well. What do you do better than others who do it well? And so that's what this book was about, is companies who are good. And I identified 28 points of frustration and friction. And we talked about why it's frustrating for us and how do we look at that differently? What's an example of a company that made it ridiculously easy? I'll give you an example real quick. We know in many cases it's difficult to buy a car, or now we've got Carvana and we've got some other online things. But by and large, it's this horrible negotiation. And there's a local dealership where I live in Denver, and they have a thing what they call the one promise. And it's one person, 1 hour, one price. That's it. And I thought in that, they literally eliminated all the things that we hate about car buying, right? It's just they have one promise. You're going to deal with one person, you're going to get one price, and it's only going to take an hour. Now, if you're going to buy a Honda Accord and you have 14 dealership choices, which one are you? The one that's ridiculously easy, right? It makes it an easy choice. They've eliminated the friction in the process. The things that we know we hate about a certain company, what can you do to reduce that or eliminate it? So anyway, that's what drove it. Long answer to your question about why I think it's the best. I just think it's the most relevant. I think it's the most current, and I think it's the most relatable. We've been very humbled that just the title alone has sparked a lot of interest. I get talk to people all the time. I go, we were just talking about that. How do we do that? And then we just sold the rights. We're going to launch in India the first week in December. And I know this is an evergreen podcast. So first week of December 2024, we're going to be available across India as well.
Wow, that's such an important milestone. So,
Yeah,
shall we
it's
talk
great.
about some of the other 28 points? I mean, you
Sure.
mentioned one. I can imagine long wait times in general are also somewhere on that list. Like, but if you had to pick a few, like, what would some other examples be of those
I'll put on
friction points?
my smart glasses. So here's some examples. Ridiculously easy to try before you buy, right? We see the stuff online all the time, right? Free trial, but it's not a free trial, is it? You have to give them your credit card number, right? And then if you after 10 days they're going to automatically charge your card, and if you forget to cancel, which of course we do. And then a year from now, you're going to forget you have that subscription. You never even use it, and they're going to automatically charge it again. And I just think it's unethical. I think it's very profitable, but it's not ridiculously easy to do it. Ridiculously easy to cancel or return or change your mind. Ridiculously easy to see the price, right? How often do we go through long sales letters and it's like, and you're just like, just give me the price, right? They're trying to take you down a path. And what it does, it creates distrust, right? We're going to go through somebody at some point. You get a lot of abandoned shopping carts or abandoned process when you realize how difficult it is. Ridiculously easy to provide feedback, to track the status, right? It's really a matter of when and not if. That if you have a process that your customers can't see where things are, you're going to do it eventually. So how long is it going to take? Easy to reach, to get a timely response, to pay you. This one makes me laugh all the time. People, they'll ask me like, do you take Venmo? Do you take Stripe? Do you take Square? Do you take PayPal? Yeah, yes, yes. The answer is yes. My God, they're trying to pay me. It still boggles my mind how many companies are restrictive of what they take. Yes, your customers are trying to pay you. But then, of course, you and I both know it's a little bit of a challenge because 80-year-olds are different than what 21-year-olds. Okay, business wasn't supposed to be easy, but it's worth it.
Do you know any business that followed all these 28 rules very,
No,
very well?
no, no. That's utopia. That's but messengers like you and I and others are helping to remind them. And I think it's important to remind them not because they don't care. It's because they're busy. You're an entrepreneur as well. Work is hard. Business is hard. And I have a heart for people in business. I have a heart for entrepreneurs. I hear consumer advocates and companies don't care. Like I don't believe that. I don't believe they don't care. I just think business is hard. And we're trying to balance. And so I think maybe one of the reasons why I'm popular and I'm busy is that I'm on their side. And by their side, I mean consumers and the business. Because the more we can do this well, everybody wins. And the more ridiculously easy, the more goodwill that we spread. One of my favorite chapters that was a little bit unexpected is I wrote one about being ridiculously easy to see. And it's like, and some of this came about during the pandemic, but you go to restaurants now and I say, can I get a menu? And they give you, no, it's just the QR code. And I'm like, I'm 61 years old. I can't read my menu on my phone, right? You saw me pick up my reading glasses here. Do you know most marketing materials are created by people in their 30s? Business cards, brochures, all of, right? Most expenditures are people in their 50s and above. So there's a disconnect. I go into store, I can't read labels, I can't read tags. And if I don't have my glasses with, well, that interferes with commerce, right? And so maybe it's just an awareness. What can we do better? I've been at some very nice restaurants where, you get a menu or whatever else, and I'd say, and they'll go, would you like some reading glasses? And they have reading glasses at the hostess station. Brilliant. Brilliant. So I think it's a fun read. I try and make it very conversational. I share a lot of data, articles, statistics, as well as case studies. But it's illustrating how all of these points can create friction or frustration for your customers and clients. And the more that we're conscious of these, the easier we are to do business with, and then the easier we are to choose, right? Because in business today, it's not about being competent. It's about being preferable, because everybody's competent and they didn't used to be. You're a young man. And I remember the time when there were some people who were pretty bad. They were dishonest or they just weren't as skilled. Those people, by and large, most of them have been weeded out. They're not in business because it's just hard to survive when we can look everybody up.
Choice is a thing for our customers. It matters a lot, but it equally matters internally, because friction, like, ask any team what they see as friction in their process, in the product they're building, in the service they're offering, in the way they work with their customers, right? When they have a lot of stores or everything is happening online, there's friction everywhere. And everyone has ideas about what matters, but choosing the ones that you are going to solve for, and it's typically more than just changing the size of a button so people at your age can click it easier to
Right.
be mindful of
Yeah.
where I like that is an easy fix, and that's typically what people can do quickly. But having an understanding of where that friction really is, that also maps onto how we as a business want to do business for our customers, with our customers, what we serve. I think that is a hard problem of choice that a lot of these teams face. And maybe this is a nice segue to AI and helping these teams make these decisions, because that's the big promise, at least, that we see in our field, where people finally can sift through millions of data points really, really fast that previously were only accessible for analysts or researchers. And now we have AI capabilities to do this. Are you also seeing a shift in how we prioritize friction and the role AI plays in there, or are we still early in seeing that?
Well, we're definitely early, but it doesn't mean that there aren't companies who are very good and people understanding it. Being able to synthesize and analyze the data. I mean, the big skill today is the prompt, right? They know the AI can be a big help, but how do they use it in a way? And there's really two ways. One is what you do, which is helping provide them easier access to usable data on their customers so that they can make better decisions. And the other part is deploying AI to be somewhat predictive and interact with their customers and clients. That's where the biggest challenge is right now. It's very easy for the bean counters to be enamored with AI because you can reduce your head count. But my message, and I deliver this across the world, I make it very clear that chatbots, virtual assistants, digital assistants, it's not to be deployed so you don't have to talk to your customers. We deploy AI so that we can, chatbots and others, so that we can offload simple issues so we have time to engage with the customers who need it. And when we so restrict access to a real person, that this hard-won customer, we worked so hard to bring this customer in, and then we frustrate them to such a profound level, it's just the antithesis of smart business. And you can look at the numbers from a cost savings perspective and it's easy to justify. But I grew up understanding the law of diminishing return, right? You can cut and cut and cut, and you save and save and save, and at some point you've cut so far that now your customers are really angry and frustrated, and they leave you. The bigger danger today is not only do they leave you and they tell thousands and thousands of other people why they left you.
But I'm fascinated by this, right? Because I don't have ever met a person that doesn't agree with chatbots are bad for customer experience, and everyone has them. So where does this go wrong?
Where it goes wrong is restriction of choices. Perfect question. It goes wrong because we look at that as the answer as opposed to an answer. And the example, a great example is if you go to the grocery store, and I'm not sure how it is in Amsterdam today, but there may be 20 checkout lines, and 15 of them are self-scan, and then there's one person working with 9 carts lined up for and the company will say, no, we're giving you choices. It's not a choice. It's not. It's social engineering. You're trying to get your customers to do business with you the way you want them, as opposed to giving them reasonable choices for how they want it. So that's how it goes wrong, is that I think chatbots aren't inherently a bad thing. I hate them, but I'm not naive. Just give people an off-ramp, right? That's our industry term. Give them an off-ramp to a real person. They shouldn't have to scream at their phone. They shouldn't have to be asked again and again and again. Here's an interesting way that AI is solving the AI problem, in that, and I tell this to audiences I talk about in the book, is if you're trying to reach a real person and they keep saying, please explain better, and then you go back into the loop and you're back in there and you're desperate to talk to a real person, all you have to do is shout profanity into the phone. Just shout F-bombs into the phone. It recognizes that you're angry and it automatically will escalate to a real person. It works.
Oh, that's a nice tip. That's a good one. I'm going to try that.
Try it. I promise you it works. But isn't that sad?
Yeah, it's very sad. But
It
still,
shouldn't.
it's going to be fun.
Should,
Like, this is an
it
experiment everyone can do today, right?
For everybody listening or watching this, here's your hack. If you're caught in an endless loop, shout profanity into the phone, and let me get you to a real person. Let me get you to an agent. But why? Why would they set that up? Right? They don't want somebody really mad because you might go online and complain. But is that where we should go? And here's the other offshoot of that one, and this one's important, is with call centers. I think what we have done to call center professionals, and we know the attrition is over 40%, right? And that it's a very difficult job, very difficult industry. What we've done to those workers, I think, is cruel. I think by the time somebody can actually talk to a real person, they're already furious or frustrated. And so all they're dealing with all day long is these people are so mad at everything that's happened for them for the last 20 minutes or last hour just to reach that real person. And so now we're asking these young professionals, or these professionals, whoever they are, to help solve these problems with somebody who's irrational. And the only reason they're irrational is because the company made them irrational by restricting their choices. So this is where I'm an evangelist for this, and I get very frustrated because I think it's a bad strategy. And so that's where I think, to answer your question, where I think it goes wrong, is that there's nothing wrong with chatbots, there's nothing wrong with digital assistants or voice. It's when we restrict access to other options, things go off the rail. And it's going to change. This is what I said about sort of the grand experiment, because you're right, we hate it. We hate it. And I'm not shy about saying it on stage.
How do people react to this? Because what I'm seeing is exactly the same. And what I also notice is that these solutions, if you want to call them that, are just cost-saving short-term strategies for the people in place. But customer experience is then focused on that experience you have during your call with the call center, right? But we're not taking into account, like, what is the reason that you're calling in the first place? What product or service are you using? Where in your life cycle, where in your journey with us are you really, and why are you calling? And so we focus on the now and make that like specific experience better or worse or unintentional, really, really crappy. But isn't that also where these customer experience initiatives go wrong, because they are focused on like this piece of the experience rather than, hey, why are you a customer in the first place and how should we help you elsewhere, so that you don't even need to call?
It's the difference between sick care and health care, right? Hospitals will treat you when you're sick. Healthcare keeps you well so you don't have the problem, right? This is where I think like visibility into the process is so helpful that if you determine through your own internal analysis that 60% of your incoming calls are checking the status of their order or their project, can we create a great customer experience that allows people to check the status themselves? That kind of a thing, that I think makes the case for moving upstream.
But what you're saying is like, as a customer, like you're signing up for healthcare, but if you get frustrated and you're in a lot of pain, you need to go to the hospital, which is basically like our call
There's
center.
this option, but the way that healthcare systems make money is by keeping them well, right? They don't make money by the person who's in there with needs a liver transplant. That costs a lot of money, right? But if you can keep them well, right? So I mean, the point is that yes, we do better if we solve the problem on the front end. I've said this for years, even before some of the new advancements, that customer service is just the complaint department, right? It has nothing to do with service. It's changed, but because there's other ways of solving problems, but in many ways, chatbots are just electronic FAQs, right? And I assume they'll get better, right? I really, because it never. Maybe it's just me. Chatbots never understand the problem I have or the question I'm asking. Never.
So this is a striking difference between, for instance, where I am in Europe or maybe where you are in the US. But when you travel Asia Pacific, a lot of emphasis on WhatsApp. So all the services that you like to have there, the products you like to buy, when you go to a website, the big bottom right corner of your screen is not like that annoying AI chatbot. It's just WhatsApp. And you go in there and there's an actual person, and the service is pretty quick and pretty amazing. That is obviously completely different culture, but I'm always fascinated by why on earth are we not doing that better in this part of the world?
Yeah, and you know, in America we don't use WhatsApp, so it's everywhere else in the world is. Now I use it because I have so many of my clients are overseas. Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's getting more difficult every day to reach a real person. And so in America, that's a significant point of friction. They've talked about new regulations and legislations that allow people to cancel subscriptions as easy as they sign up for them. So it's an ongoing conversation, and we are contributing to that conversation today.
Do you think there's also a scenario where, because everything is now so automated, fueled by AI, that we'll, as consumers, put an emphasis back on human interactions more than we ever did, where there is a huge opportunity for innovation for companies who can and will invest in actual meaningful human interactions, and that will be a differentiator for them?
It's inevitable that there will be some level of that. But what's fascinating to me, because I'm not a futurist, is you know, I get to attend conferences because I'm speaking at conferences, and I hear just amazing speakers who are saying, here's what the trajectory looks like. Here's how we're going to be integrating. But the ones that are more utopian, I dismiss, you know, because AI is going to take care of it, and Elon Musk's robots will do menial tasks. We'll have more time to sit and contemplate. That's garbage. You know, we're not going to sit and contemplate. We'll just sit around getting fat. What's fascinating to me is where it's going to go. What will it allow us to do more of, as opposed to simply assuming tasks that we used to do, now AI does it. I don't even know if I answered your question. I love the conversations around it. I think it's fascinating. I think when AI or the usage of chatbots or others causes additional frustration and friction, restricting access to real people, making it take longer to find answers to your questions, I just think it's foolish on the part of companies, because we work so hard, we spend so much time and money attracting new customers, that to frustrate them when they're already with us is foolish. It's like I ask audiences, I said, do you ever go to a website and you've got a simple question and there's no phone number? Like literally, there's no phone number, like anywhere on the website. And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like, it's like we worked so hard to get a new customer. We got them to our website and now we piss them off. It's stupid, because the wrong people are making the decisions, or the decisions are being made without CX or marketing in the room. And that's important. And so, and you and I think we both understand how important that voice in the conversation is. If the conversation is just between the people who are doing operations and finance, you're going to get very different decisions. But those decisions all affect consumer behavior, consumer preference, consumer perspective. And those conversations are absolutely crucial. And if for anybody watching or listening, when you're making operational decisions, product development, product distribution, customer engagement, your customer engagement people have to be in the room when those decisions are being made.
And often they're not.
Too often.
Too often they're not. It's interesting you mentioned operations. This is the shortest pathway for customer experience typically to actually get a foothold in the business, to actually make meaningful impact, more so than sharing the insights and being responsible for having everyone, get their incentives for the NPS score that went up this month. But really to be operationally impacting the business, I think that's the fastest path that we're seeing. But here's the thing, like CX is also seen as sometimes as a nice to have. When economic times are booming and everything is up to the right, customer experience is the most important thing. Everyone is putting emphasis on it. Teams are being formed. There's a lot of budget and priority for it. But then things start to go south and the market is not where we want it to be. Half of those teams get cut immediately. The other half
because they're not seen
are
as
actually
revenue.
more important than ever.
Right.
How would you explain that phenomenon? I mean, it's a pretty simple explanation, but there's a lot more to it, I guess.
Here's my perspective is that, and I understand operational. I mean, most of my work, my early work has been with company CEOs. I've had individual conversations with over 8,000 CEOs over the last 20 years. When we have a problem, we solve the problem. And if the problem is a cash flow problem, then we look for who are the revenue generators and who are the revenue spenders, right? And which side of that ledger, to use my old terms. And we put more money into sales and marketing, and we try to cut admin. And unfortunately, CX is often seen as a non-revenue generator. And it's not that they think the customer experience is not important. They think they're pretty good at it already. And that's why. It's not that they're discounting the importance, is that they're a little bit overconfident that we're already doing it very well. Our customers love us, right? We're very good at what we do, right? We have the best quality. Our customers are happy, but they're not seeing the intricacy, the science behind it. What this industry has, the technology, the knowledge, the insights, what you're doing with they do, puts us in a whole different level than we were at 10 years ago. I mean, historically we were, we'd look at demographics and psychographics, right? But not every 26-year-old Asian woman likes the same kind of pants. There's so many more data points that we never had access to before. And today we do. And even when we did have access, we didn't have enough people who could understand it. And so it's like the new systems and process and the work that you do helps make this understandable and actionable for so many more people that I have great hopes that things are going to get better and better.
David, this was a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again on this side of the...
Again, yeah.
Of this side, yes, please. This is probably not the last conversation we have. Where can people find you, your books, your speaking, keynotes, everything that is online? What's the best place to find you?
Best place, just go to my website. It's just my name, davidavrin.com. Links to my social media as well. You can follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram. In some places, it's the real David Avrin because there's hundreds of fake ones. That's a whole catfish for another day. And my books are online, just on Amazon, Kindle, audiobook as well. But my new one, I think, is really relevant, really captivating, ridiculously easy to do business with. But yeah, look me up, send me an email, and I respond to everything.
All right. Real David Avrin, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, brother.
All right, and that's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable today, don't forget to subscribe to The Experience Edge on your favorite podcast channel, leave a review, and share it with your team. I'd be delighted. Today's episode was brought to you by Daydo, the AI journey management solution for enterprise. To have an edge on your business strategy and to know why your customers do what they do, visit daydo.com and explore more resources to accelerate your customer experience game. And remember, the journey to creating customer-centric impact never ends, and here's always a new edge to discover in doing things differently. Next week, new episode. Until then, keep pushing the edge and stay inspired. See you in the next episode.